This is the brand new 2026 Italica Moto 150, and we just got it here in a box to our garage. We're going to show you exactly how to build this thing straight out of the box in case you just bought one yourself. This is an awesome 150 GY6 scooter. It's a replica of an MBK booster. It looks pretty sweet, so let's go ahead and unbox this thing. As you can see, this thing comes in a steel crate here, so we're going to have to do a lot of bolts here to undo this crate. Once you get those bolts undone, you can kind of just start stripping apart all the random luggage crates and fairings that are in here, and then you can slide on your handlebars. These slid right on. There was no connectors need to be plugged in at all, and we were able to pop the seat and find the rest of our belongings here. We have a manual in here. It looks to be a fender, some random hardware, the VIN cover plate. We also have a little toolkit and the kickstand and some other random accessories. Most importantly, we have the hardware for our stem, our shock bolt, our kickstand bolt, and all the bolts that we need for the actual scooter itself. Here is the stem. As you can see, it's a big oval, and I went to look in the manual and there's no instructions in here, so don't even worry. We're going to show you exactly what I did in this video, figuring out ourselves. This is everything we have here on the table with the center stand over there, some luggage crate bolts, and we also got a new battery. This is the front wheel. Now our scooter is looking pretty complete already. There isn't really much we need to do except for this stem bolt here. So we're going to go through our hardware and find what we need for this rear shock and that stem bolt. It looks like we're able to kind of just unbolt this inner fairing here and just slide it back to be able to put that bolt in. So now we're digging through our hardware. This is the stem bolt here. It has a concave spacer here, as well as the longest bolt and the nut. Here is our kickstand bolt here, which we will put on later, and also the rear shock bolt. These three bolts right here are the most important ones that you will need. We're going to go ahead and pull the inner panel back and then slide that bolt through. And then as you can tell, the hole is bigger on this side, so that is where this concave spacer is going to go in. It kind of locks itself into that hole where the handlebars are onto the actual fork stem. We'll slide the nut on there, and then we'll just use two open-end wrenches to kind of be able to tighten it. You could probably take off this inner panel here, but I honestly didn't want to break the tabs. It seemed kind of like really iffy on pulling that thing out. So I was able to do it with just pulling it back, and yeah, wasn't too bad. Put those screws back in, and then on the front here we have two connectors. Only one matches up to the headlight. I'm not sure what the other connector is for, but we're leaving that unplugged because that's how it came. The headlight plugged right in, and pretty common sense from here. The other two screws on the back kind of need to go from the inner panel into the front, and then we kind of just snap that panel here on the side clips as well. Now we're getting this thing pretty complete looking, and our Italica is almost ready to almost give it its first fire up. Now we're just reinstalling the key and the little ring around the key, and then for the rear shock I went ahead and tried to lift it myself onto there, and I realized I was not going to be able to get to the bolt, so I actually used some help from my girlfriend. I would definitely suggest using two people to reinstall that shock bolt in the back and then as well as the front. For the front, there's one spacer you kind of got to fight that in and then slide the axle through, and then on the other side it's like the speedo sensor thing, so you got to make sure you get both those on. And then I undid my whole caliper bracket. It just made it a lot easier. I was fighting that wheel trying to get in at first, and then I realized the two bolts here on the caliper, to undo those, slid the caliper off and then put the wheel on and then slid the caliper right back on. So very easy. This is our first look at our Italica right here. This digital cluster right here is probably one of the coolest things I've seen on a scooter. It just looks sick. We have a digital tach. We actually have our voltage, fuel, mile per hour, time. On the sides here, we got our blinkers. We also, on the inside of the knee panel right here, have a charger port, which is pretty nuts, dude. One thing to note, when I did put in the battery, I can't get to it now because I had to take this off. Negative terminal, and it did not line up with the battery at all. I actually had to bend that tab at like a 90-degree angle. But if you look underneath this thing, for the center stand, and that bad boy would like bolt up somewhere over here. I just don't like how much that frame is sticking out there at the bottom. So get out of here. See ya. We're chopping her. Center stand, delete. Now we got some clearance under there. All right, boys, it is now time for our first fire up on our Italica here. She pulls it through. Ooh. Damn! This is our remaining hardware here for the Italica. I'm not too sure what this thing is. I'm sure somebody will know. This would be like the bushings for the center stand area. I actually threw my center stand away and completely cut it off the bottom here, just because the center stand mount itself sat really, really low, and I just did not like how low that sat, knowing that I'm gonna be like off-roading this thing and jumping it and wheeling it, and I just didn't want to hit that bottom end. So we actually chopped the center stand mounts off completely underneath here, right behind the plastic there. I probably wouldn't recommend you doing that. I did not care. I just did not want to risk crashing, hitting that thing. So no center stand for me. And then that would be the springs right here for the center stand. Not too sure what these are for. I think these are literally just like to go over, I believe. That's the only thing I could find that it fit in. Would just be to hide the bolts that are on the foot area right there. Came with a zip tie, 2 little screws. Also, don't know what these were for. This would be the bolts right here for your center stand as well. And like I said, the springs right there. So the only bolts we really had to install was this one stem bolt that went up here that ran with the only spacer that's in the bag. And then the one shock bolt for the rear, and then the kickstand bolt. I'm gonna go ahead and show you now how I installed the kickstand, even though I already have mine on there. But it's really, really easy, especially if you have a tool like this, like a spring tool. Try to see if I can do this one-handed here. Okay, get this kickstand spring off. Where'd she go? That's the big kickstand spring right there. At least that's what I assumed it was, because the other ones were not the right length and way too strong. And then it's just the one bolt, and I'll show you what the kickstand bolt actually looked like. It's also threaded into here, so I'm not too sure what else would go into this bolt, but it is also threaded. This would be your kickstand bolt right here, the short little stubby one with the smooth area. And then, like I just took it apart. And then we'll take our spring, one little hook on the back here. You just snap that right over the big ring there. And now we have a kickstand. So that's really it. There's like 4 bolts to put this thing together. I didn't even have to fully remove this inner knee panel either. I just undid the screws, pulled it back, and I was able to slide that stem bolt in there. Set the bars on there, and there was nothing to even plug in on the handlebars. All your hardware, your manual, and all the other things you will need are under your seat. The only thing that came outside from under the seat was actually our luggage crate. If you haven't watched our full video on the Italica, go watch that thing, but we kind of beat this thing up, I'm not gonna lie. This is all the hardware here for the luggage crate. And there's 4 screws that go into this plastic bottom tray here. And that just like sits onto the rack like this. I believe it goes the rubber washer, and then this would push the rubber washer down. And you would do that for all 4 of them. And then you would have a mounted box on the back here. That'd be how to install your rear luggage rack, but we're not gonna be running that thing because it was kind of sketchy with the wheelies. It's hard to kind of like get off the back if you go to loop this thing. That is how you build your Italica straight out of the crate. If you want to check out more on these scooters, the link will be in the description down below. You can grab this off Scooter Swap Shop and get this thing shipped straight to your door. The most bolts and work you have to do is uncrating this thing. Once you get out of the crate, it is literally 3 bolts and throw some gas in it, it's ready to rip. So that's gonna do it for this one, boys. Subscribe to the second channel if you're not subscribed to this channel yet. We're gonna be doing a lot of how-tos and random stuff on this channel, so stay tuned for that. I'll see you guys in the next video.